Iron Man actor Robert Downey Jr. has one of the most incredible life stories that I've ever heard. And in this video, I'm going to go through his rise, fall, and rise again. Going from prisoner and criminal with a substance abuse disorder to Hollywood star, one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood.
Check me out, I'm going to make a serious comeback.
If you don't know who I am, my name is Saramed. And I'm a doctor working in London. I love delivering stories about celebrities who've overcome their health condition to achieve success. And if that's something you're into, hit subscribe and put notifications to all so you don't miss out on one of these incredible stories. I want to start by saying I'm not Robert Downey Jr.'s physician. It may not be obvious, but all of the information I'll be sharing is publicly available. Now let's get into the video, what you're here for, the meat of it. So Robert Downey Jr.'s life started in 1965, where he was born in New York in Greenwich Village. His dad was an underground filmmaker and recruited Robert into his first film when he was 5.
That tornado scared me so much it made my hair disappear.
Have any hair on your ball?
Just 1 year before he gave him his first joint. And this was really the start of troubles with Robert and his encounter with drugs. Drug use became an emotional bond between him and his father, and Robert actually says, "When my dad and I would do drugs together, it was like him trying to express his love for me in the only way he knew how." Now, I find this quite interesting because patients who are exposed to drugs at a young age are much more likely to actually go on and develop substance abuse disorder. So obviously, Robert had some of the risk factors in that case, being exposed at such a young age. I mean, usually early teens are what the studies cite, but literally the age of 6. You know, how can you deal with that? But listen to the rationale from Robert's father about why he did that.
A lot of us did things and thought it would be hypocritical to not have our kids participate in marijuana and stuff like that, so we thought it was cute to let them smoke it and all that. It was an idiot move on our part.
Now, Robert then went through his teens. He experimented with drugs, but wasn't significantly affected by them. And then he went on to play a role as Julian Wells in a movie called Less Than Zero. He had lots of other roles, but this was really quite a significant one because he was playing an actor who was addicted to drugs, including heroin. Everybody looked at Robert, thought he was acting, but actually when he walked off stage, he was very much a similar person, or the beginnings of a similar person, to what he would then later become. It was also very interesting because in the movie, Robert Downey Jr. actually performed very well, and he showed medically accurate signs of substance abuse disorder. He showed dependence, including
Just take a deep breath, okay? Come on, you can do it.
sweating, showed social isolation.
You conned your way through rehab. You lied. You stole. Look what you've done to our family.
I know, but why don't you just give me a break? I just need you to be my father for one goddamn day. Just help me.
He showed risk-taking behavior. But at this point, he wouldn't have seen his drug taking as a problem, and he still had quite a lot of success as an actor. In 1992, he went to go play Charlie Chaplin in the movie Chaplin, and he ended up winning a BAFTA for it, as well as becoming nominated for an Oscar for that performance. So obviously, you know, he was functioning quite well, but things did progress, and just keep getting worse and worse and worse. In 1995, he started smoking crack as well as heroin. So when you add those into the mix, you really have a recipe for trouble. And that's exactly what Robert Downey Jr. ended up facing in that stage of his life. So from 1996 to around 2001, he went through a very rocky period. He was arrested numerous times on charges related to marijuana and cocaine. And at that point, he really lacked control over his behavior, even though it was something that he wanted to change. He actually said to a judge during one of his trials, "It's like I have a shotgun in my mouth and I've got my finger on the trigger and I like the taste of gunmetal." He said he'd been addicted to drugs since the age of 8, and due to the fact that his father, also an addict, had been giving them to him. He went through his rehabilitation programs unsuccessfully and ended up in California Substance Abuse Treatment Center and State Prison. During his time in that facility, psychiatrists tried to diagnose him with bipolar disorder. Take a look.
I said, "Robert, I believe that you had bipolar disorder." He said, "Yes, I do have bipolar disorder. There are periods of times that I'm so hyper and I spend a lot of money, I'm irritable, and there are periods of times that I go down."
Now, it wasn't until 2007 when Robert Downey Jr. had an interview with Esquire magazine that he actually mentioned that the guy I was seeing didn't know I was smoking crack in the bathroom. You can't make a diagnosis until somebody's sober. And absolutely, it does muddy the water, but lots of people with substance abuse disorder do also have concurrent psychiatric illnesses like depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorder, and those are the most common ones. That being said, there aren't many signs of Robert Downey Jr. having bipolar disorder, so I would not necessarily agree with that diagnosis. Now, this point really was the lowest for Robert Downey Jr. and at this stage it's quite clear that he has substance abuse disorder. So what do we mean by that? Is it just smoking a joint at the weekend? No, it really comes down to 4 things. So you need to have a loss of control. So you can't cut down even if you want to. You need to have social impairment. You're missing deadlines. You are becoming isolated. You can't keep up with commitments. You start risk-taking behavior, whether that be sex or driving under the influence. And you have physical dependence as well, which the extreme of is really addiction. And when we say addiction, we mean really the neurobiological predilection to require a substance to feel normal. And at that point, really, you have substance abuse disorder that is severe in nature. So how can you help that? Well, treatment can be in lots of different ways. You have got kind of drug therapy, which sometimes you use, sometimes not. You've got group therapy, things like Alcoholics Anonymous. You have emotional support, and that can be where someone is just trying to help you through the stages of change. Now, on that point, I want to take things back to you. I want you to pause this video and think, if you had a friend that was in a similar situation to Robert Downey at this point, what would you do? So what did you say? Would you offer him support? Would you cut him out of your life? You know, he's lost trust. The reality is most people would cut them out of their life, and actually trust is one of the first thing that goes. And it's interesting because it's depicted in this scene from Less Than Zero. Take a look.
Can't you tell when I'm telling the truth?
No. Trust was the first thing you ruined.
So that person with substance abuse disorder is already in the darkness, and what they need to come out is that spark of motivation to say enough is enough. You know, in general terms, that's what we call it, but in medicine, we call it helping to move them through the stages of change. What are those? Well, every person who's trying to change a behavior, whether it's trying to eat more healthy, or trying to pick better partners, or trying to cut down on cigarettes, or on drugs in general, has to go through a particular set of stages. These are the pre-contemplative stage, the contemplative stage, preparation, action, and maintenance. And then you can go back into the cycle if you relapse. Now, relapses are quite common, and encouragement will help people move through these stages much faster. So what really was the turning point for Robert Downey Jr.? Well, he mentioned in an Oprah interview. Here, take a look.
I just happened to be in a situation the very last time, and I said, you know what, I don't think I can continue doing this. And I reached out for help, and I ran with it, you know, because you can reach out for help in kind of a half-assed way, and you'll get it, and you won't take advantage of it, you know. It's really, it's not that difficult to overcome these seemingly ghastly problems. You just
You are saying that it's not that difficult?
No. What's hard is to decide.
Oh.
And to say, you know, it's not, I don't want to be.
That's big.
It's really quite profound, and you know, if we can help others to be able to make that same decision, others that could be suffering from a similar problem, then the world will be a better place for it. So you watching this may be the person who can trigger that in someone else. So after the resurgence from, let's say, 2001 to 2007, Robert Downey did not have an easy time. Lots of directors did not want to work with him. He was casted for previous movies and ended up having to basically delay those being shot because he ended up in prison. And they were worried about him relapsing and then making them reshoot mid-movie. So actually nobody would give him insurance either, and so his first gig was a video by Elton John where he was simply lip syncing to the actual music. Take a look. Then all he needed was for someone to give him a chance, and Mel Gibson in 2003 actually paid for his insurance. He was an old friend of Downey's, and that was his gateway back into the movie industry, where he played the singing detective in 2003. And we all know that after that he managed to get his role in the Marvel films, and his wife actually helped him. She was a big producer, gave him lots of links, and as soon as he got clean, he changed his mindset. Really, things started to look up for him. Now, I find this story so inspirational because really it just proves that when you suffer hardship, there is a meaning to that, and you can look at it metaphorically by saying that the tree with the deepest roots grows the tallest. Downey has definitely not forgotten about the community, and he now serves as part of the board on the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. That's very hard to pronounce, and basically what that is the organization which helps previously incarcerated individuals be reintroduced back into society successfully and prevents them from going back to prison again. So love the work that he's doing, doesn't forget where he came from. So on that note, I'm going to end the video. I hope you found it inspirational. If you or someone you know is suffering from substance abuse disorder, then would love to hear from you. What did you think in the comment section below? What have your experiences been? I will always read and will try to respond to all of you. If you found this video interesting, you may find this video on how Billie Eilish is dealing with her Tourette syndrome interesting. Take a look at that, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, peace out, stay healthy, stay happy.